Free Julian Assange, Westminster Magistrates Court, London, 20 April 2022.
Free Julian Assange!
No!
Free Julian Assange!
No!
We have come here today because the High Court has ordered Judge Barrister to sign the extradition and pass it on to the next bloody pair of hands, Home Secretary Priti Patel. For 4 weeks, we can make submissions to her and her office to explain to the Home Secretary the nature of free speech. Julian Assange, a journalist and publisher, has paid the penalty for publishing the truth. This is the full force of the US Justice Department and the administration of Joe Biden. The full force of a Conservative government. The full force of the judiciary, Parliament and the police enforcers against Julian Assange and WikiLeaks in a criminal enterprise of human trafficking to face 175 years in an American supermax prison, to be denied his voice, his legal and human rights, and an end to the information, the vital information that WikiLeaks has published about the UK's involvement in war criminality, aided and abetted by the US and their NATO allies. This case is the most important freedom of speech case in 800 years, an attack on journalism, an attack on your right to know. Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
US! UK!
Hands off Assange!
US! UK!
Hands off Assange!
We have a message for Judge Barrister, Home Secretary Priti Patel, and all those in the High Court who have barred Julian's rights. There's only one decision!
No extradition!
There's only one decision!
No extradition!
Westminster Magistrates Court, specialising in rendition and human trafficking, will see an Australian journalist, a guest in this country, in the UK, carrying out the essential work of investigative journalism, and that must include government secrets. It must include issues of national security that involve criminality. It is our duty to report these facts, and those in public office and those who share these secrets must be willing to reveal the criminality of our parliamentary and executive masters. Without this information, we will die in ignorance, and our voices will be forever silenced, and the truth will be forever rewritten in this Orwellian nightmare that they call UK justice.
Yes.
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
No! I would like to thank the members of the international press here today who are covering the most important case in UK justice. I would like to thank even the UK media, those who have been brave enough to defy their editors and producers, those who are willing to tell the truth. But they have been there far too long to know that their security, their welfare and their future is in the hands of this case. This case will decide the future for us all, and those to be extradited will be forever silenced in an American criminal justice system that is not only medieval but has legitimised torture, isolation and silence. Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
There are people around this globe who understand the facts of this case. There are people who throw doubts upon the facts of this case. Unfortunately, the second group are those responsible for spreading state propaganda and lies about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. They are spreading falsehoods, false testimony, false witnesses against a man who has only published the truth. If we lose Julian Assange to American extradition, that will be the end in the UK of any free speech. And the craven editors and their billionaire publishers, their billionaire owners who pull their leash tight when it comes to issues of freedom of speech. Shame on the UK media! Shame on the UK media! Shame on these liars and these opinion piece nonsense that they publish every week. And their headlines are lies, and they at last realise that they will be next.
Yes.
This case here today is a rubber stamp of the British judiciary in order to appease the American prosecutors and the American national security agencies, which have spent millions, tens of millions, pursuing Julian Assange. Tens of millions in surveillance, spying and persecution of the WikiLeaks staff, of those who support journalism, of those who support free speech. This is the doomsday for free speech, and those who print anything else are printing lies. Thank you. Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
What's going on here? The British people must not accept it. Bravo! Julian Assange is a brave journalist. He's uncovered war crimes carried out by all sorts of nations throughout the world. It's proved inconvenient to one or two of those nations, and for that they want to incarcerate him for 175 years in solitary confinement. That's what's going in here. 175 years for a non-violent act of journalism, of investigative journalism. And they think that it's appropriate to put that Julian Assange into solitary confinement, which is widely considered a form of torture, for a 175-year sentence. That's what Priti Patel believes. Priti Patel also believes it's all right to take people who seek asylum from other countries and send them off to Rwanda. Shame on her!
Priti Patel!
What?
Shame on the United Kingdom government! Shame on the United Kingdom's so-called justice system! Shame on you!
It shows complete indifference to British law and international law and virtually every treaty on asylum imaginable. These people should be ashamed of what they're doing. This is an embarrassment. It makes me feel shame to be British that we have a judicial system that will treat a journalist this way. We're the mockery of the world. The world's looking at what's going on here. Britain which is supposed to be one of the oldest democracies in the world, we're allowing this to happen. We're allowing the democratic rights we have in this country to slip through our fingers. These people impersonating people who sit in a court of justice, because this surely is not justice. These people need to be accountable in genuine court for what they're doing. You cannot extradite a journalist to a country who wants to persecute them for uncovering their war crimes. That's just absolutely unacceptable. What is going on here is an abomination. So I'm dressed up here as a judge,
Yes.
and I'm making much less of a mockery of British justice than what's going on in there. By comparison, that I'm a fine upstanding judge. So this is a situation that is beyond mockery now.
Yes.
It has been going on. The idea is that Julian Assange is being punished by the judicial process. There's no intention of coming to find a position of justice rapidly. They want to drag it on as long as possible, hoping that he dies while he's incarcerated. The British government want to get away with responsibility for extraditing him to the United States of America by dragging out the process so long that he dies before he ever gets there. That's what Belmarsh is. It's a death sentence for Julian Assange.
Yes.
If he gets sent to America for 170 years, 175 years, that's surely a death sentence. He's committed no crime, but even if he had committed a non-violent crime, what kind of nation would lock someone away for a sentence with 175 years in solitary confinement without any human contact with other people who he can have a relationship, without books, without proper exercise? It's inhumane. We should all be ashamed of this. We must stand up and say no to this. I do not accept what's going on in there. It's a charade. It's making a mockery of the whole system of Western democracy. We must say no to it. This needs to be stamped out now. If Julian Assange is allowed to be extradited to the United States, or if he remains imprisoned in Belmarsh, he will not be the last journalist who gets imprisoned. It will slowly move towards more and more journalists. More journalists will have to self-censor. Journalists that are at work, and some of them will be imprisoned and tortured as Julian Assange is. Make no mistake, his incarceration is a form of torture. He's being kept in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement is recognised by Amnesty International and many other human rights bodies as a form of torture. Before that, he was arbitrarily detained in the Ecuadorian embassy on a trumped up story. It was about some kind of charge which the Swedish prosecution refused to bring against him. It was clearly always about him being extradited to the United States. Julian Assange clearly stated that the whole plan was to extradite him to the United States. Many people disregarded him as some kind of conspiracy theorist. So did British politicians, and said there's no chance at all we will try and extradite him to the United States. And on the day of his illegal kidnapping from the Ecuadorian embassy, he was brought here. I came to the court on the same day, and the charges were nothing to do with Sweden. They were to do with his extradition to the United States of America for truth-telling. They call it espionage. Imagine if a regime in another country, for instance North Korea, committed human rights violations, and a British journalist wrote about human rights violations in another country like North Korea, and their government complained. Would anyone here think it would be reasonable for the British journalist to be extradited to North Korea to face a 175-year sentence?
No!
No! Nobody agrees with that. So why should it be acceptable? Why should it be acceptable for a journalist who reported these matters outside of the United States? Why should he be subject to their harsh policy of silencing free speech? If he was American, they couldn't try him because it would fall under the First Amendment.
When he's not place to this country, freedom of speech all around the world.
Jeremy.
This is the same country that wants to take Julian Assange for 175 years.
So let's say thank you to everyone for being here this morning. Thank you for standing up for free speech. Thank you for standing up for Julian Assange.
Bravo!
Julian has done no more than tell the world the truth. The truth about wars, the truth about military planning, the cynicism by which we've been into wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and the consequence of those wars are the poverty, the refugee flows, and the terrorism of today and tomorrow. There is no future for this planet if all we can ever do is plan for war and plan for greater military power. There has to be somebody that speaks up for peace. And I see Julian Assange as somebody that's told the truth and enabled all of us who consider ourselves to be peace campaigners to be better prepared, better informed, and better able to put forward those simple arguments. If this decision ever reaches the desk of the Home Secretary, and that is up to this court behind me today, I hope she will reflect on the importance of her office, on the importance of the decision that she is required to make, and recognise that extradition of Julian Assange to the United States will condemn him to, in all probability, 175 years in a maximum security prison for doing no more, absolutely no more, than telling the truth to the rest of the world. If Julian had been a journalist in China or Russia, he would be lauded by the media all over the Western world. He'd be lauded by Western governments for telling the truth. Because he's told an inconvenient truth, he is an embarrassment to them, and therefore he's incarcerated in Her Majesty's Prison, Belmarsh, a maximum security prison with truly horrible and awful conditions there, in which his health has seriously deteriorated. In all humanity, I say to this court, release Julian Assange, that he may be able to continue his work as a journalist in telling the truth about the way in which so much of this world is run. I hate wars, I hate the violence of wars, and I hate the killing of wars. And I want Julian's truth to help us to demand a ceasefire and an end to the war in Ukraine, a ceasefire and an end to the war in Yemen, and all the other wars around the world. He has given us truths which has enabled us to do that campaigning. So when Priti Patel is asked to make that decision, I ask her to reflect, what is a democracy other than the ability of journalists to do their job, to ask the strong questions of politicians and those that make decisions? What is a democracy but protecting that right to speak, that right to know, that right to assemble, that right to be an activist? It will be on her hands, this, and I hope she will reflect of those great journalists of the past that have done so much to give us truths, and recognise that in those steps comes Julian Assange. Today we're here in solidarity with Julian, Stella, his family, and all those that campaign for him. And we will carry on campaigning, whatever decision is made today, whatever decision Priti Patel makes, and we'll carry on campaigning with our many friends all across the United States in support of Julian, free speech, journalism and democracy. Thank you very much.
Julian Assange!
Today!
Free Julian Assange!
Today! Mr. Corbyn, what do you think the persecution of Julian Assange says about the British justice system?
Did you not hear what I just said?
Do you think whistleblowers should get better protection from the UK government?
I think your point about whistleblowers is a good one, because there is legislation that protects whistleblowers. So if you're a whistleblower in, for example, the National Health Service or a government department or local government, you do have some degree of legal protection. As far as I'm concerned, Julian Assange is basically a whistleblower that's told inconvenient truths.
Thank you, Jeremy! Thank you, Jeremy Corbyn!
Words. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Reece.
Thank you, John. I don't think I need to explain to anybody here what a terrible effect extraditing and prosecuting Julian Assange would have on journalism. The crimes for which the United States are seeking to prosecute him are the very business of doing journalism. Finding sources, cultivating sources, and using them to expose wrongdoing. All of you know that. I've said it to many crowds before. But let me share with you a reflection I had the other day. I spent some time in court with Chris Mullin, the former MP who spent a lot of the 1980s exposing the wrongful imprisonment of the Birmingham Six. And sitting in court with him, I found myself reflecting on the world when I was in my early 20s, when the Birmingham Six were in prison, when the Guildford Four were in prison, when Nelson Mandela was in prison. And those of us on the left were campaigning on all of their behalves, and we seemed like a tiny minority, chafing against the mainstream, saying things that were unfashionable and unpopular. And yet today, nobody doubts that the imprisonment of all of those people was wrong. And I have no doubt, whatever happens here, I earnestly hope that the case will be thrown out, but whatever happens here, within 2 or 3 years it will be widely accepted that Julian Assange should not have been prosecuted, should not go to prison, and was aiding the world, not doing anything criminal.
But it also then becomes a form of censorship on every other journalist, because they will know the risks they run if they tell the truth about what foreign policy, arms trade, arms dealing, torture and so on is around the world. We're all at risk if Julian's defeated.
Just one more.
Say thank you for running. You're the first person I've ever
to officially announce that British justice is dead. This case is not complicated, it's really very simple. Julian Assange is a journalist who set up WikiLeaks to expose the bad things being done by bad people around the world. It's good that they are exposed, as it means that the good people, like us, stand some chance of stopping those bad people. WikiLeaks and everything Julian did is all perfectly legal, but it made him some very powerful enemies, in particular the United States government. So they bribed, yes, the United States government bribed a person called Borderson to lie by saying that Julian got him to hack, and hacking is illegal. However, Borderson has now admitted that he lied, and Julian did absolutely nothing illegal or wrong. So there's now absolutely no case for Julian's extradition. Furthermore, the reason why Borderson lied against Julian was because the United States said they would give him immunity
from prosecution for his own crimes. These include sex with 15 underage boys, as well as large-scale financial fraud and embezzlement. In summary, this case is not complicated. Thordarson is the only witness against Julian, and he's now admitted that he was bribed by the United States government to lie against Julian. The case against Julian is absolutely baseless. It's as simple as that. So it's an absolutely disgusting sham of so-called justice going on in this sordid little kangaroo court behind me. British justice will stand for absolutely nothing around the world if this court doesn't immediately free Julian!